Hello, this is Joshua Kulp for Daf Shevui. We are learning this week Masechet Ketubot Daf Tzadi Zayin, page 97 of Masechet Ketubot. And I wanted to go over a part from the first page, which has an interesting concept about sales, and then maybe review for a little bit about the Tosfot's limitation of that sugya. So the sugya asks, Ibai lehu. All right, it was asked of them, Zayin velo itzterich lezuzeh. If somebody sells something and he doesn't need the money, meaning he sold, let's say, something of value, and we'll see why I say that later on, and it turns out he doesn't need the money for what he wanted to sell the object for. The question is, hadre zvine or lo hadre zvine? Can the sale be reneged or not? And we bring a series of stories in which the rabbi, the acting Amora, always says that the sale can be annulled. For instance, there was a man who sold some land to Rav Papa, for he needed the money to buy some oxen. In the end, he didn't need the money, and Rav Nachman returned him to his land. In other words, Rav Nachman allowed him to renege on the sale. There's a similar story that happens in the city of Nehardea, and Rav Nachman says that the sale can be revoked. And obviously, I wanted to comment on this and just like a little bit of the economic background, and then go over a little bit of how the Tosfot basically reread this whole law. The idea over here is people did not normally sell objects. It was considered a desperate move. People didn't own that many objects. And basically, when you sold something, it was because you were really strapped for cash. We're not talking, obviously, here about merchants. We're not talking here about a person who's regularly selling the item that he is selling. We're talking about somebody who sells something that seems relatively obvious that he's only selling it in order to raise the cash to buy something else. Nevertheless, you can imagine the havoc this would wreak with the economy. You buy something, you buy a piece of property, and then it turns out the other guy didn't really want to sell it in the first place. Who knows how long that was, maybe a year. You've done some work on the property. Maybe you're living there. You've counted it among your possessions, whatever you may say about it. And then it turns out that the sale is reneged. And you can imagine the difficulties that this would cause with even an ancient economy. But nevertheless, that is the way the halacha turns out according to the Gemara. It seems that the Gemara itself sides strongly with, let's say, compassion for the person who's selling under such circumstances. Come along the Tosfot, and the Tosfot say something like this. He has to explicitly, there's two things they say. First of all, he has to explicitly reveal at the time that he's selling that he is doing so because he needs the cash. In other words, he has to say, I am selling this piece of land because I need to buy oxen. And if it turns out I don't need to buy oxen, that would seem to be the sale is annulled. Did it again. Because if he's quiet, that's dvarim shebalev. That's inner intent. And we never count dvarim shebalev, inner intent, as having legal consequences. The other thing they say is if it's something that somebody might not just sell to raise cash, in other words, it's a small item that people regularly sell, not because they're strapped for cash, then he has to have it explicitly written down, or at least explicitly in a contract of some sort, even an oral contract, that he is selling it only because he needs the cash, and he has to prove it. All right, because if he sells something that somebody doesn't normally sell, then we can at least a little bit assume that he wouldn't be selling it if he didn't need the cash. But if he's selling something that people sell all the time, we need to have concrete proof that he's selling it only for the cash. You can see the Tosfot are sort of rebelling against this law, I think probably because they live in a trading economy, like say on the range of economies far closer to ours than the Talmudic economy was. And being able to renege, not renul, or annul a sale is a dangerous thing. When somebody sells something, usually we want to consider it final. But nevertheless, I think it's interesting that the Talmud sides so strongly on the compassion that I think it has for a person selling his objects, and that he should be able to annul that sale should he really turns out that he didn't need to sell it in the first place. I'm sure there are many people who sold pieces of real estate over the years that they wish they hadn't sold, but our economy, probably ultimately for the better, does not work that way anymore.